Hello mga Kamaniwise! Welcome back to my channel! In this video, I will share my top performing stocks in my dividend portfolio for 2025. Kahit down ang PSE index, marami pa ring stocks ang nag-perform really well. Pero syempre, kung merong top winners, meron din akong losers. 2025 was a difficult year for the Philippine stock market. Dahil sa mga issues sa Pilipinas, maraming investors ang nawalan ng confidence, especially foreign investors. Nag-downtrend ang PSEI from July to November noong pumutok ang flood control issue. And then, nag-slow down din ang economy. The PSEI closed at 6,052.92 on the last trading day of 2025. So down ng 7.29% ang PSEI compared to 2024. Out of the 30 PSEI stocks, only 6 stocks ended the year with gains. Ang ICT, LTG, Pure Gold, Meralco, JG Summit, and AREIT. I have 5 out of the 6 in my dividend portfolio. Ito naman ang naging performance ng mga stocks na hawak ko in my dividend portfolio noong 2025. I started building this dividend portfolio noong August 2023. 2.5 years na siya sa ngayon. I keep on adding shares, kaya nag-average up ako para makapagdagdag ng shares. Kasi more shares means more dividends. 5 stocks ang red sa aking dividend portfolio. Globe and PLDT, bumagsak ang share price nila below my average price kasi affected sila ng Konektadong Pinoy Act. Ang Shang, RRHI, and SCC, bumagsak din ang price noong 2025. Pero ngayong January 2026, nag-start nang mag-recover ang share price nila. And maraming bagsak na stocks noong 2025 ang nag-start na mag-recover ang price ngayong 2026. Before I continue, quick shoutout muna sa mga bagong YouTube channel members ko. Kay Noelito, Pavi TV, XY Deal Senido, Joanne, Bernie Baroman, at Kang Nesto. Maraming salamat for joining as channel members and supporting my YouTube channel. I really appreciate your support. Shoutout din kay Margie, subscriber natin watching from France. Okay, so let's continue. Let's start with my top performing PSEI stocks. My top performer is Meralco, Manila Electric Company, plus 49.9%. Meralco is the Philippines' largest electricity distributor, serving Metro Manila and surrounding provinces. Monopoly siya. Meralco is a defensive stock. Kahit anong mangyari sa economy natin, kailangan natin ang kuryente. Kaya minsan, nag-average up ako sa Meralco para makapagdagdag ng shares. Kaya tumaas na rin ang average price ko sa Meralco. Yung revenue nila comes from regulated distribution fees with 95.9% coming from their power business. Dividend yield ng Meralco is 4.22%. Mababa na siya kasi tumaas na ang share price niya. Pero yearly, tumataas ang dividends ng Meralco since 2021 after the pandemic with a compound annual growth rate of 21% from 2021 to 2025. May dividend policy ang Meralco to pay at least 50% of its core net income as regular dividends. Kaya pag growing ang income ng Meralco, dividends will also grow. Second is LT Group, plus 47.89%. LTG is a diversified holding company with multiple revenue streams. And 2025 was a strong year for LTG with record profits from banking and distilled spirits sa first 9 months ng 2025. LTG generates revenue mainly from banking through PNB, distilled spirits and beverages via Tanduay and Asia Brewery. 59% ng kanyang revenue ay from PNB. Isa sa biggest contributor sa earnings ng LTG ay ang kanyang tobacco business. It's a joint venture with Philip Morris and Fortune Tobacco. Because it's a joint venture, the tobacco earnings come in as equity earnings. Hindi siya direct revenue. Ang tobacco business contributed about 36% of LTG's earnings sa first 9 months of 2025. Dividend investors love LTG kasi isa siya sa pinakamataas magbigay ng dividend. Kaya lang walang dividend policy ang LTG. pero consistent siyang nagbibigay ng dividends over the past 10 years. Ang dividend yield niya ngayon is 8.23%. Mataas pa rin, maski tumaas na ang price niya. At ang kanyang 5-year compound annual growth rate sa dividend ay 9.1%. Third is International Container Terminal Services, plus 42.87%. ICT operates ports and container terminals worldwide, hindi lang sa Philippines. It has a wide economic moat. Revenue comes from cargo handling fees, tariffs, and ancillary services. Sa revenue breakdown, Asia pa rin ang pinakamalaki ang contribution at 42.3%, followed by Americas at 39%, and Europe, Middle East, and Africa at 18.7%. Dividend yield is 2.27%. Mababa ang yield, pero growing ang dividend niya yearly since 2020 with a 5-year compound annual growth rate of 33%. Pang-apat is Pure Gold, the leading supermarket and retail chain in the Philippines. Pure Gold runs supermarkets and SNR membership warehouses. It earns money from selling groceries and everyday consumer products. It offers low prices for consumers through Pure Gold, while SNR naman targets the higher-end segment. Pure Gold's revenue is entirely from retail business. Pure Gold as a consumer stock is also considered a defensive stock. Dividend yield is 4.53%. Mababa na rin ang dividend yield niya kasi tumaas na rin ang share price niya. And nag-start mag-increase ang dividend niya starting 2023. Meron siyang dividend policy to pay at least 30% ng net income as dividends to shareholders. And meron din siyang special dividends, kaya more than 30% ang payout ratio niya noong 2025. Panglima is AREIT, Ayala Land REIT, plus 26.02%. AREIT owns prime commercial properties gaya ng offices, malls, industrial land, and hotel. AREIT is the most diversified REIT in the Philippines. Mataas ang average occupancy rate ng AREIT, nasa 99%. And AREIT continues to attract income investors because of its quality assets, solid performance, and growing dividends. AREIT's dividend yield is 5.43%. As you can see, yearly tumataas ang dividend ng AREIT with a 3-year compound annual growth rate of 7.1%. AREIT still has a lot of room to grow. Marami pa ring properties ang Ayala Land that can be added to AREIT in the future. So we also expect that dividend will continue to grow. Now let's move to my top performing non-index stocks for 2025. First is Manila Water Company, MWC, plus 50.7%. Water is an essential service, stable, predictable, and recurring ang demand. MWC serves the East Zone area in Metro Manila and Rizal. So MWC is a defensive stock kasi kailangan natin ang tubig every day. Tubig is life at hindi tayo mabubuhay na walang tubig. Essential utilities gaya ng MWC provide stability in a volatile market. Dividend yield is 4.5%. Mababa na rin ang yield kasi ang taas na rin ang share price niya. And ang laki ng dividend increase niya from 2024 to 2025, nasa 63%. And then starting January 2026, nagkaroon din ng rate hike of 8.39 pesos per cubic meter for Manila Water. Manila Water benefits from higher water rates. So pag tumaas ang earnings ng MWC, tataas din ang dividends. Second is Robinsons Land Commercial REIT, RCR, plus 41.22%. RCR earns rental income from its commercial properties. Meron siyang office and malls. RCR is the most geographically diversified REIT in the Philippines and meron siyang significant exposure to emerging business hubs gaya ng Cebu, Davao, Naga, and Bacolod. Average occupancy rate is 96%. Candidate siya for index inclusion. So pag nakapasok ang RCR sa PSEI, tataas ang share price niya. Dividend yield is 5.21%. Unlike sa AREIT, hindi ganun kalaki ang increase sa dividend per share ng RCR. And hopefully, lumaki na rin ang increase ngayong 2026 kasi marami siyang bagong asset infusions. RCR is my top holding sa aking portfolio. Third is Costco Capital, plus 34.73% ako sa Costco. Costco is a holding company ni Lucio Co. It operates through grocery retail, specialty retail, liquor distribution, real estate and property leasing, and oil and mining segments. Napakasolid din ang performance ng Costco Capital. 89.9% ng revenue ng Costco ay from grocery retail. So pure gold ang nagbubuhat sa Costco. 7.7% naman ng kanyang revenue ay from liquor distribution. Dividend yield is 5.28%. Just like Pure Gold, nag-start tumaas ang dividend ng Costco noong 2023 at nagbigay din siya ng special dividends noong 2025 and sana magtuloy-tuloy na tumaas ang dividend ng Costco para maging mas attractive siya sa mga dividend investors. Pang-apat is the Keepers Holdings, plus 32.79%. Ang lakas ni Lucio Co, tatlong kumpanya niya pasok sa top performers ko. Keeper engages in the liquor, wine, and specialty beverage distribution business in the Philippines. Ang focus niya is imported liquor. Mas mataas ang profit margin ng Keeper compared sa Pure Gold. Keeper earns from both retail and wholesale. Dividend yield is 4.88%. Nag-start magbigay ng dividends ang Keeper noong 2022. Mababa pa ang dividend niya noong time na yan. And then nag-increase ang dividend noong 2024. Twice siya nagbigay ng dividend noong 2024. Pero 2025, once lang nagbigay. Panglima is RFM Corporation. RFM manufactures and sells consumer food products gaya ng pasta and noodles, ice cream, milk, juices, and other food products. RFM is a small cap company kaya hindi siya masyadong napapansin at hindi rin siya kino-cover ng mga brokers kasi small cap siya and low liquidity. Pero solid din ang performance ng RFM. Hindi affected ng pandemic ang earnings niya. So I consider RFM as a defensive stock. Dividend investors are attracted to RFM dahil mataas magbigay ng dividends and recently ginawang quarterly din ang kanyang dividend payout. 75.9% of RFM's revenue ay from consumer business, while 23.8% naman ay from institutional business. Consumer business, ito yung revenue nila galing sa food products na binibenta nila directly sa supermarkets at grocery stores. While institutional business, ito yung revenue nila galing sa mga business clients tulad ng restaurants, bakeries, hotels, at fast food chains na bumibili ng products nila in bulk. Mataas ang dividend yield niya at 9.2%. At growing ang dividend niya. Ang 5-year compound annual growth rate is 19%. Nasa 70% ang dividend payout ratio niya noong 2025. This is still considered healthy. Basta wag lang mag more than 100% kasi hindi niya masusustain pag more than 100% ang payout ratio. Pang-anim is Aboitiz Power Corporation, AP, plus 28.86%. AP is one of the major power companies in the Philippines. Most of its revenues come from long-term power supply contracts, kaya predictable at stable ang cash flows niya. Because electricity is a basic necessity, Aboitiz Power is also considered a defensive utility stock. 51.4% ng revenue ay from power generation, 27.5% naman from power distribution, and 21.2% from parent company and other segments. Dividend yield is 5.3% and yearly tumataas ang dividend niya after the pandemic. Ang 5-year compound annual growth rate is 14.8%. Nag-improve din ang long-term growth outlook sa Aboitiz Power after acquiring the Caliraya Botocan Hydropower Plant and expanding its renewable energy capacity. Pangpito is Robinsons Land Corporation, RLC, plus 27.71%. RLC is one of the major property developers in the Philippines. RLC ang sponsor ng RCR. Napaka-diversified ang revenue stream ng RLC. It operates through Robinsons Malls, residential division, offices, hotels, and other segments. Pinakamalaki ang revenue contribution ng Robinsons Mall at 40.9% ng kanyang total revenue. Dividend yield is 4.52%. So yearly, nag-increase ang dividends ng RLC after the pandemic. 5-year compound annual growth rate is 8.4%. Halos lahat ng companies bumaba ang dividend payout noong nagka-pandemic kasi affected ng pandemic ang earnings nila. And then nung naka-recover ang earnings, nakabawi din sila sa dividends. Kaya dapat growing ang earnings ng company para tumaas din ang dividends na ibibigay nila. Pangwalo is Citicorp Energy REIT, plus 26.64%. CREIT is the first renewable energy REIT and largest renewable energy landlord in the Philippines. It earns money by leasing land to solar farms and other renewable energy projects. Some of its own solar plants also earn from both rental and power generation. So, meron din siyang predictable cash flows kasi long-term lease contracts ang meron siya with solar operators at hindi siya masyadong affected ng real estate market cycles. Dividend yield is 5.7%. CREIT's dividends are supported by stable contracts, which includes regular increases sa rental. Kaya lang flat ang revenue ng 2025 kasi walang bagong asset infusion from 2024 to 2025. Kaya hindi rin ganun kalaki ang dividend increase niya. CREIT's management has confirmed na they are planning to raise new funds ngayong 2026 para may funds sila for the acquisition ng additional properties to expand the renewable energy portfolio. May bago akong dinagdag na stock sa dividend portfolio ko, ang OGP. Attractive ang OGP to dividend investors kasi meron siyang dividend policy to distribute at least 90% of its free cash flow as dividends to shareholders. Binenta ko kasi yung original position ko sa OGP. But then, I decided to buy again nung nag-pull back ang price niya sa 25 to 26 levels noong November. Ang lakas ng gold. Plus 16.95% agad ang OGP by end December after 1 month. Kaya lang gold stocks are cyclical, nakatali ang price ng stocks sa price ng gold. So the rest of my stocks, though hindi ganun kalaki ang gains noong 2025, still delivered positive returns like GSMI, FB, Metrobank, Maynilad, MREIT, and DMC. So ayun, kahit negative ang PSEI noong 2025, marami pa ring individual stocks ang nag-perform really well, lalo na yung mga defensive stocks with solid fundamentals. And ngayong 2026, malamang ang PSEI will still consolidate or move sideways dahil sa ongoing uncertainty hanggang hindi pa nare-resolve ang governance issues sa ating bansa. Kaya para sa mga investors sa PSE, dividend investing pa rin ang best strategy para maski sideways ang market, tuloy-tuloy ang dividend income at hindi mo kailangang magbenta ng stocks para kumita. How about you? Pa-share naman ng mga top performing stocks mo noong 2025 sa comments section. Thank you and see you sa next video.